What's good, everybody, man? This is your guy, Manny, and this is the Talking Sports with Manny YouTube channel. This is the Talking Sports with Manny podcast. So we're going to talk Overreaction Sunday for the NFL. But before we talk about Overreaction Sunday in week one in general, we're going to start off with the game, the Dallas Cowboys versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That was a dandy. That was an amazing game come Thursday night. I was excited. I got off work. Got me some chicken wings from Publix, went to the crib, was watching the game, and I had a great time. It was a good game. Tom Brady just showed why he's Tom Brady. He was able to lead this team to a victory, you know what I'm saying, in the fourth quarter. It's just what Tom Brady does. After Dallas took that lead, you would think that Dallas would have won the game, but then they left too much time for Tom Brady. Tom Brady was able to drive down the field and do what he does. So if you look at that Tampa Bay game, Tom Brady had 4 touchdowns, 379 yards passing, 2 interceptions, but also Tampa Bay fumbled twice. Chris Godwin had a costly fumble. Ronald Jones had a costly fumble. That's 4 turnovers for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but they were able to persevere versus the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys did score a lot of points, but they kicked a lot of field goals. They were out there, and instead of scoring touchdowns, they were scoring field goals to start the game until they really got their groove going. Dak Prescott had 400 yards passing. He had 3 touchdowns and 1 interception. Ezekiel Elliott had a terrible game, 11 carries for 33 yards. Fantasy owners are going crazy right now. Amari Cooper, I keep telling people, Amari Cooper is elite. And look what he did against a very good defense. He had 13 receptions for 139 yards, 2 touchdowns. He was one of the leading go-getters in fantasy this week. CeeDee Lamb had 7 receptions, 104 yards. Dallas Cowboys lost Michael Gallup. That's a big loss for them. You're going to see a lot of Cedric Wilson moving forward. He's going to be a guy that's going to be able to come in and step up for these guys. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers still don't have a running game. Leonard Fournette was terrible. Ronald Jones was terrible. Matter of fact, Ronald Jones, he fumbled. He's pretty much done for a while. So you're going to see a lot of Giovanni Bernard moving forward. That's just my guess. Antonio Brown had 5 receptions for 121 yards and a touchdown. Chris Godwin had 9 receptions, 105 and a touchdown. Gronkowski had 8 receptions for 90 yards and 2 touchdowns. Gronkowski is back. But who took the hit? It was Mike Evans, a guy that has been in the NFL for 7 years, and every year he gets 1,000 yards. So it might not be any different this year. People are down on Mike Evans right now, especially in fantasy football. They're selling. I'm like, look, go and buy Mike Evans if you can. He will be fine. So like I said, guys, it was a great game. I enjoyed myself. Levante David and Devin White led the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in tackles, respectively, 11 and 10 tackles apiece. And then Anthony Brown and Jaron Curse were able to, get some tackles on the opposite side. So, man, great games all around. We're going to talk about the Pittsburgh and the Buffalo Bills game. You look at this game, it's 2 teams that are in contention for a Super Bowl. You can say whatever you want to say about the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh Steelers are legit. They are as legit as it comes. And Big Ben didn't have a good game. He was just real, nonchalant, threw the ball 32 times and, completed 18 of those. But on the opposite side, Josh Allen threw the ball 51 times and only completed 30 of those. Like, when you look at it, it's Josh Allen, the guy that was almost an MVP last year, right? He took a step back this game, but it's just one game. He did throw for 270 yards. Roethlisberger threw for 188 yards, but it was the Pittsburgh's defense that really gave them this win. Buffalo Bills played a good game, but they just could not score enough points. Devin Singletary had a decent game. It's actually a great game by his standards. He had 11 carries for 72 yards. That's amazing. Josh Allen did what he does. 9 carries for 44 yards. Najee Harris, all that hype, didn't have a really good first game. He was averaging 2.8 yards per carry. He had 16 carries for 45 yards, but better days are ahead. I mean, these were really 2 good defenses going against each other, so I did not expect a lot of scoring. Juju Smith-Schuster led the team in receiving with 4 receptions and 52 yards. Stephon Diggs led the Bills with 9 receptions for 69 yards. Cole Beasley 8 for 60, and so on and so forth. So Gabriel Davis did have a touchdown. He is that bright spot. I think he ends up as the wide receiver 2 for the Bills this year. Minka Fitzpatrick and Devin Bush led the Steelers with tackles, 10 apiece. And that's pretty much how the game went, man. It was just really straight to the point. A defensive a battle, defensive, struggle on both sides. Pittsburgh just made enough plays. They made enough plays, and they were able to win this game. TJ Watt had 2 monster sacks and 1 fumble, that just pretty much changed the whole dynamics of the game. I mean, Pittsburgh's defense is crazy, and if they keep playing like this, I'm telling you guys, they got a chance at legitimately winning a Super Bowl. I say that with all honesty. Forget what the offense looks like. If the offense gives you anything as a bonus, when you're able to shut down a premier top offense like the Bills to 16 points, what else can we really say? You know what I'm saying? So we move on to the Jets versus the Panthers. The Panthers came out with a win, 19-14. It was Sam Darnold revenge game versus his old team. Robbie Anderson revenge game versus his old team. Zach Wilson is the real deal. Yes, he lost, but look, I'm really liking what I'm seeing out of Zach Wilson. He threw the ball 37 times, completed 20 of those. You know what I'm saying? 258 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. As the game went on, he got better. He was sacked 6 times for 51 yards. The Jets did lose their big boy Minka. I mean, that's just a tough loss. I mean, he was crying, leaving the field, talking about, I was doing so good, bro. And I really felt for him, man. I feel like he's going to be a really good left tackle in this league. I wish that they were able to still get Zach Wilson and get Penei Sewell, but it definitely wasn't possible. Definitely was not possible. Corey Davis just continues to play amazing. He had 5 receptions for 97 yards and 2 touchdowns. Fantasy owners definitely enjoy that. Michael Carter, it's going to take him a while to be the guy. I think Michael Carter ends up being a guy for the Jets, but it just was not week 1. Elijah Moore, they had a lot of hype, didn't do anything this game. So with the Jets offense, it's going to be a lot of struggle. It's really going to be, anybody's game. So you can't really just depend on Corey Davis. Jamison Crowder is coming, and I think that Jamison Crowder probably leads his team in targets. Yes, I said it. Yes, I know that Elijah Moore is here, but at the end of the day, I think that Jamison Crowder just has so much separation that he can bring and provide for this team. You look at what Sam Darnold was able to do, 279 yards, 1 touchdown. Christian McCaffrey back to being elite, 21 carries for 98 yards. It's not a lot of yards, but it's solid. 4.7 yards per carry. That's pretty solid. McCaffrey also led the team in targets and receptions. He had 9 targets, caught all 9 for 9 receptions, 89 yards, no touchdowns. But if you play PPR, Christian McCaffrey got you a cool 27 points. So you can't be mad about that. DJ Moore had 6 receptions for 80 yards. My sleeper for this team is Terrence Marshall. He's going to get better and better and better. So keep an eye out for Terrence Marshall. Robbie Anderson did what Robbie Anderson does. He caught 1 reception for 57 yards and a touchdown. That's a Robbie Anderson type thing. He goes deep. But last year, he showed that he can run a lot of different routes. I'm really big on the Panthers defense. Shaq Thompson, 10 tackles, 1 sack. Hassan Riddick, 4 tackles, 1.5 sacks. This is a guy who came on the scene last year with tons of sacks. He had a 5-sack game. It seems like a lot of people that play for the Cardinals are used to having 5-sack games. We're going to get to another guy who had 5 sacks a little later in the show. Yetur Gross-Matos, a sack. Brian Burns, another sack. I mean, it was a sack fest on Zach Wilson. I'm telling you guys, if you're playing fantasy football, whoever the Jets are playing, you want to go ahead and grab that defense because there's a potential that Zach Wilson leads the NFL this year in being sacked. I mean, he's going to get sacked, but he's going to make plays. That offensive line, especially losing Micah Becton, they're going to be pretty terrible in terms of protecting Sam. I almost said Sam Darnold. Zach Wilson, my bad, y'all. Moving on to the next game, you got the Houston Texans, you got the Jacksonville Jaguars, two teams in the same division, a weak division with the performance that we saw this week from the Titans, which I'm about to get into. And then you look at who's really in that division, the Colts, who's really in that division that can really come out and say, you know what? I mean, everybody in that division is weak except for the Colts and the Titans. But neither one of those two teams stepped up to the plate. So the Houston Texans are the number one team in that division right now. Trevor Lawrence came in. He played okay. 28 completions out of 51 passes. He had 3 touchdowns. He had 3 interceptions. He was sharing it with the offense. He was sharing it with the defense. He was sharing. He was like Oprah. You get a pass. You get a pass. You get a pass. You get a pass. Everybody was receiving passes from Trevor Lawrence. But the bigger thing is James Robinson. He only had 5 carries for 25 yards. Carlos Hyde had 9 carries for 44 yards. And Carlos Hyde was somebody that, was pretty much like an afterthought. Okay, we bring him in as our third guy, and then, ETN gets hurt now. Carlos Hyde has a chance to be that pass catching back, but he let them in carries. So I'm really confused. I'm really confused with that. DJ Chark had a good game, 3 receptions, 86 yards and a touchdown. Marvin Jones, 5 receptions, 77 yards, and a touchdown. Those are 2 guys I played on my fantasy team, and I was happy with the results this week. We move on to what Tyron Taylor was able to do. He was punctured. You know what I'm saying? He lost his job. Then that's the birth of Justin Herbert. Now Tyron Taylor got to come in and really show that he's a professional. Had 291 yards passing. He had 2 touchdowns. Well, my biggest takeaway from Tyrod Taylor was that he hit Brandon Cooks for a 52-yard pass. He hit Pharaoh Brown for 29 yards, Chris Conley for 17 yards. So he was able to throw the ball deep. And that's something that, you don't really associate deep passes with Tyrod Taylor, but he was able to do it. Brandon Ingram led this backfield in carries. 26 carries for Mark Ingram. The rest of the team as a whole, 41 carries. So he got a major bulk of the carries, like all of the carries. You know what I'm saying? Only 15 carries for everybody else. 26 went to Mark Ingram. He had 85 yards rushing and a touchdown. Philip Lindsay did pitch in with a touchdown as well. I think anybody that's in this backfield is serviceable week to week for double-digit points because they're going to depend on these guys to run the ball, and that's pretty much how they're going to be able to play. Brandon Cooks, I apologize. I didn't think that he was going to be able to get anything done with Tyrod Taylor as his quarterback. I was wrong. 5 receptions for 132 yards. Brandon Cooks is just – you can start to call Brandon Cooks elite. He's played with every kind of quarterback known to man, good quarterbacks, bad quarterbacks. All he does is produce, and he's going to have another 1,000-yard season this year. He's similar to Mike Evans, just on a lower level and the lower tier, just because he's been on a couple of bad teams the last 2 years. But he's still elite. We're still waiting for Nico Collins to burst onto the scenes. David Johnson did have 3 receptions for 18 yards and a touchdown. So keep an eye out on David Johnson. He is their number 2 wide receiver. He is one of their better wide receivers on this team, and he's a check down king. So he's going to be able to grab a lot of receptions, especially if the Texans are losing. So defensively, can't really say much about neither side. I was looking for Zach Cunningham to have 10 tackles or more. He didn't do that. He had 6 tackles. Miles Jack just continues to do Miles Jack type things, 9 tackles. 6 of those were solo tackles for loss. So, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. It's a matchup that many thought wasn't going to be good. It ended up being good. So you cannot fault us for wanting more football. I mean, I pretty much watched every game that I could this weekend. We move on to the Titans versus the Cardinals. Coming in, I'm thinking a high-scoring game. I'm thinking Tannehill. I'm thinking Kyler Murray, 2 top quarterbacks in the league. Up-and-coming guy in Kyler Murray. It was just the Kyler Murray show. He was efficient. 289 yards passing, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. He was sacked 2 times, but it didn't affect him. Chase Edmonds pitched in. Connor pitched in. As a team, the Cardinals rushed 33 times for 136 yards and 1 touchdown. That touchdown being Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray was magnificent. 5 total touchdowns. DeAndre Hopkins is the GOAT. 6 receptions, 83 yards, 2 touchdowns. Christian Kirk bursting out into the scenes. 5 receptions, 670 yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, amazing game. Total domination from the Cardinals. It wasn't really all about the offense. It was also about the defense. Chandler Jones had 5 sacks. 5 sacks. And after the game, Taylor Lewan was talking about, He's glad that, Chandler Jones exposed him. He played terrible. He owned up to it. And he was thanking Chandler Jones for exposing him, and he says that he's going to do better. We'll see. I'm telling you guys right now, the Titans are not looking too hot. I know it's just one game, but the Titans have no excuse. They brought in Julio Jones. You have A.J. Brown. You have Derrick Henry. You have Tannehill. That's a nice quad. Not a lot of people in the NFL have this much talent. And to come out here and lay an egg is terrible. Tannehill was sacked 6 times. He couldn't do anything. You know what I'm saying? It got to the point to where they took Tannehill out the game, I think, and just called it quits. I think towards like the end of the fourth quarter or something like that. Derrick Henry had 17 carries for 58 yards. This Cardinals defense has the potential to be special. I want to know, are the Titans really bad, or is it that the Cardinals defense is just really, really good? Only time will tell. I knew that when they signed JJ Watt, I knew that this defense had a chance to be good. Everybody was saying, oh, Chandler Jones hasn't done anything for the last few years. Well, this is his welcome party. This is his welcome party back to a comeback season. He has a chance to go for 20 sacks this year, and he's off to a great start. You now have 16 games to get 15 sacks. I'll take those odds. I will take those odds. Isaiah Simmons looks like the guy they wanted to draft. He was magnificent. He was definitely off the chain. He was doing his thing. Budda Baker. This defense is loaded, man. Byron Murphy Jr., Jordan Hicks, the whole nine. This defense is ready to hit, ready to play. And Xavier Collins. Don't forget about Xavier Collins. He's going to be a name that you want to really monitor. You look at the Titans, man. What did they really have to offer? They had 2 sacks on defense. Thank goodness, right? You know what I'm saying? Like A.J. Brown had 2 tackles. What does that tell you? You look at the box score and A.J. Brown has 2 tackles, their star receiver, it just tells you how terrible of an offense they had. So they definitely got to pick it up. When Chester Rogers leads you in receiving yards, you know something's wrong. Come on, Tennessee. I live here. I'm not a Titans fan, but hey, y'all got to do better. Y'all definitely got to do better. Eagles and the Falcons. Falcons were terrible. See, that's the thing with Matt Ryan. He has these games where he just looks so awful. And you would think that the Falcons defense would have improved. That defense has not improved, not one bit. Cordero Patterson, 7 carries, 54 yards. Mike Davis, 15 carries, 49 yards. That running game. So if you're telling me Cordero Patterson and Mike Davis, does not excite anybody. You know what I'm saying? It has to come from the passing game. Calvin Ridley only had 8 targets, 5 receptions, 51 yards. It's not enough. All the hype about Kyle Pitts this, Kyle Pitts that. I didn't see Kyle Pitts do anything. Did any of you guys see Kyle Pitts do anything? Russell Gage laid a goose egg. And if you played him in fantasy, you probably lost because zeros, you can't replace zeros. Zeros hurt. At least get me a -1. Let me know that you was in the game. Like when you get zeros all across, I can't trust you. Jalen Hurts had a good game versus a terrible defense, 264 yards, 3 touchdowns. Miles Sanders pitched in 15 carries, 74 yards. Kenneth Gainwell, watch out for him. He's going to be a name. Like the Eagles have a legit committee running the ball, including Jalen Hurts. So that's really what helped them. 31 carries for 173 yards. That was the difference of the game. Devontae Smith, welcome to the NFL. He had 6 receptions for 71 yards, a touchdown. Jalen Reagor, we've been waiting for, scored a touchdown. Dallas Goedert had a touchdown. Miles Sanders had 4 receptions. So real balanced attack. A lot of people are saying the Eagles are just so good and this and that. Let's see, because we know the Falcons are bad. Let's see if the Eagles are really as good as people say they are. That's going to be the difference. That's going to be the total difference so far. So we move on to the Minnesota Vikings versus the Cincinnati Bengals. Kirk Cousins is solid. 351 yards, 2 touchdowns. Like, what more do you want Kirk Cousins to do? He threw the ball a lot. Yes, he threw the ball 49 times. But who didn't throw the ball a lot this Sunday? It's become a passing league. You know what I'm saying? Dalvin Cook, 20 carries for 61 yards. That's not good enough. That's not good enough. 1 touchdown. Okay, whatever. Adam Thielen is just a monster. 9 catches, 92 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's what he does. KJ Osborne, welcome to the scene. We're going to talk about you later on tonight on the fantasy waiver show. 7 catches, 76 yards. Justin Jefferson didn't step up enough. You know what I'm saying? But Kirk Cousins was able to pass the ball all around. Game went to overtime. An exciting game, an exciting field goal by the rookie to win the game for them. Joe Burrow was just solid, 261 yards, 2 touchdowns. Joe Mixon looking like an RB1 once again, 29 carries, 127 yards and a touchdown. Magnificent. Jamar Chase, he can't catch the ball. The ball is smaller from pro and the ball is whatever. 7 targets, 5 receptions, 101 yards and a touchdown. Solid. T. Higgins scored as well. Bengals defense is much improved. B.J. Hill had 2 sacks. Larry Ogunjobi had a sack. I mean, this Jesse Bates, Von Bell, the whole 9. This is a defense to be reckoned with. Don't sleep on the Cincinnati Bengals defense. I saw a lot of good offense this Sunday and this weekend, but I also saw some pretty good defense as well. So like I said, do not sleep on the Bengals defense. Detroit versus 49ers. It started off as a blowout. I'm thinking, man, the 49ers are going to blow these jokers out. Jimmy Garoppolo's out here throwing darts. You know what I'm saying? Trey Lance even came in and scored a touchdown, had a passing touchdown. So it's going to be something that's going to be annoying for fantasy owners, Jimmy Garoppolo, Trey Lance. But overall, that passing attack was nice. Elijah Mitchell, 19 carries, 104 yards and a touchdown. Mind you, Trey Sermon was a late scratch in the game. You know what I'm saying? Raheem Mostert gets hurt. After 2 carries, he gets hurt. Like every year, he always gets hurt. So Elijah Mitchell moving forward, JaMychal Hasty and Trey Sermon are going to be able to power this nice rushing attack. Deebo Samuels had a career high in receiving yards, 189 yards receiving, 9 receptions and a touchdown. He had a 79-yard reception. I mean, it was magnificent. George Kittle pitched in 4 receptions for 78 yards. I mean, these guys were clicking on all cylinders. The 49ers looked scary. But at the same time, did their defense get bored, or is their defense not as good as we think it's going to be? I don't know. That's a question that I want you guys to answer. You guys communicate with me. Let me know. Teach me. Jared Goff had a good game. He threw 57 times, but he had 338 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Jamal Williams and DeAndre Swift were able to split that backfield beautifully. They had 9 and 11 carries respectively for 54 and 39 yards. Jamal Williams had a touchdown running the ball. Jamal Williams also had 8 receptions for 58 yards. DeAndre Swift, 8 receptions for 65 yards. So I'm telling you guys, that's going to be a balanced backfield. When I said that the best receivers for the Lions are TJ Hockenson and DeAndre Swift, everybody laughed at me. Now we're seeing that they're going to use their running backs as wide receivers. TJ Hockenson is going to lead the team in targets most weeks. Defensively, Lions were okay. Defensively, Fred Warner led the 49ers. So we're going to see if the 49ers can really tighten up this defense. I really didn't see Nick Bosa much. He did have a sack. They had 3 sacks as a team. Maybe they get back to that defensive mentality, because giving up 16 points in the fourth quarter to almost lose the game, that's not the kind of habits that you want to develop as a team. Moving on, you got the Seattle Seahawks on one side. You got the Colts on the other side. I'm thinking maybe potential shootout. Well, the only team that was shooting was the Seattle Seahawks. Russell Wilson, 254 yards passing, very efficient, only threw the ball 23 times, but he had 4 touchdowns. Chris Carson led the way, rushing the ball, 16 carries for 91 yards. Tyler Lockett, man, the guy is amazing. That's all he does. He had 4 receptions. Out of those 4 receptions, 2 were touchdowns. He had 4 receptions, 100 yards, 2 touchdowns. DK Metcalf, 4 receptions, 60 yards, and 1 touchdown. Gerald Everett, he's my sleeper tight end this year. He came in, 2 receptions, 20 yards, and a touchdown. We move over to the Colts. Is Carson Wentz playing? Is Quentin Nelson not playing? Jonathan Taylor stock up, Jonathan Taylor stock down. They just didn't have a good game. Carson Wentz was sacked 3 times. He did pass for 251 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jonathan Taylor didn't score. 17 carries for 56 yards is terrible. Jonathan Taylor also had receptions. That's pretty much what saved him from a fantasy aspect, was that Jonathan Taylor was able to get some receptions, Nyheim Hines as well. So it seems like this is another backfield that's going to command a lot of receptions between Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines. That's 15 targets for both guys. Zach Pascal did pitch in with 2 touchdowns for this team. In terms of like the wide receivers, I can't really trust them right now. I can't trust Michael Pittman like I want to. I can't trust Jack Doyle or Mo Alley Cox. So I don't know what's going on with that passing attack. Carson Wentz is probably going to spread the ball around. He doesn't care who's the number 1 or number 2. On the flip side, on the defensive side, Bobby Wagner had 13 tackles. Jordan Brooks second with 11 tackles. The Colts defense is still legit. You know what I'm saying? They were still able to sack Russell Wilson, like I mentioned earlier. So moving forward in that division, everybody lost. Colts lost, Titans lost, Jacksonville lost. So Houston, Texans are number 1 in that division right now. And it's just so funny to me. Let's quickly go through the rest of these games. You got the Miami Dolphins. You got the New England Patriots. Tua Tagovailoa, second year, full-time starter now, 202 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, was sacked twice. You're playing against a very good defense in the New England Patriots. Okay, Myles Gaskins was not able to give you anything in the running game. So really the game was on Tua. You know what I'm saying? Without his second best receiver in Will Fuller, I think the best receiver on the Dolphins is Jalen Waddle. He had 4 receptions, 61 yards, and a touchdown. Obviously, Devontae Parker had 20 more yards, 4 receptions, 81 yards. But I still think that Jalen Waddle is the best wide receiver on his team. They get Will Fuller back in week 2, so we're going to see what this offense looks like with more speeds on the outside. Matt Jones played a good game, solid, 281 yards and a touchdown. If we're being real, he outperformed Tua with less receiving weapons. You know, this guy has guys like Aguilar, James White, Jacoby Myers. No disrespect. These are all good players. I'm not trying to disrespect anybody. I just feel that the receiving attack is better on the Miami side than it is on the New England side. I know Hunter Henry's out there. I know Jonnu Smith is out there. Even then, this is a rookie who has outplayed Tua. You know what I'm saying? It just is what it is. Damian Harris did have a good game, and then he had a running game on this side. So it's like just the balance of things. Better defense, potentially, and run game on the New England side, and then better passing attack on the Dolphins side. It's 2 teams that are kind of like almost evenly matched. But Damian Harris had 23 carries and 100 yards. He did have a costly fumble, as well as Ramondre Stevenson. So let's keep an eye out on this backfield, because when you piss off the coach, Bill Belichick, he'll put you in that doghouse pretty quick. So like I said, defensively, man, both teams were solid. Both teams had sacks. I think New England had an interception. Xavier Howard wasn't able to get any. The beauty of the Dolphins' defense is that pass attack. They can defend against the pass, but against the run, that's pretty much where they get beat up. You know what I'm saying? So it is what it is. It's just like, each game they're going to get better, but the Dolphins really got to shore up that run defense. They got to run the ball and really defend the run. This game right here was pretty good. This was a game between the Cleveland Browns and the Kansas City Chiefs. The Browns gave these guys everything they wanted and more. You know what I'm saying? It was 22-10. That was the score. 22-10 at halftime. The mighty Kansas City Chiefs, it just seemed like they were pretty much out of it. You know what I'm saying? Baker Mayfield had 321 yards passing, 1 interception. You got to get more passing touchdowns. That's really like that next level for this team is Baker Mayfield putting the ball into the end zone. Nick Chubb was magnificent, 15 carries for 83 yards and 2 touchdowns. Kareem Hunt, 6 carries, 33 yards and a touchdown. So 4 touchdowns running the ball, because Jarvis Landry also ran one in himself. So got to get some more production from the quarterback in terms of passing touchdowns. Njoku had a good game, 76 yards receiving, followed by Jarvis Landry's 71. Patrick Mahomes on the other side had a great connection with Tyreek Hill. Tariq Hill had 11 receptions, 197 yards, and a touchdown. I mean, this guy almost went 200 yards on these boys. Like, Tariq Hill is a cheat code. Travis Kelce type game, 6 receptions, 76 yards, 2 touchdowns. Those were really the trio that brought this team back. And if you have Mahomes, Tariq Hill, and Kelce like I do in plenty of leagues, you're pretty happy right now. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is developing into a receiving back. This is going to need to receive some passes for this team. But I think that Clyde Edwards-Helaire needs to get some running game going. He needs to get something about himself going more. And I think that's the running game. Definitely got to pick that up. Defensively on both sides had lapses. Chris Jones did have 2 sacks. But when it came to making timely plays, both teams were a little bit shaky. But I felt like the Cleveland Browns were able to put pressure on Patrick Mahomes. They just couldn't get home as much times as they wanted to. So we'll see what happens moving forward. The surprise game of the week was the Green Bay Packers versus the New Orleans Saints. You're thinking Drew Brees is gone. The Packers are going to murder these guys, but they didn't do it. It was just crazy to me. Aaron Rodgers passed the ball 28 times, 133 yards, 2 interceptions, no touchdowns. This is the worst performance I've ever seen out of Aaron Rodgers. He's a guy that doesn't really throw double-digit interceptions in the season, but he's on pace to do it. But I think he's going to tighten up as the season goes on. A.J. Dillon, 4 carries for 19 yards. He's the one that led Green Bay in yards. Devontae Adams, 5 receptions for 56 yards. It's just terrible. It's terrible. Jameis Winston had a great game. Very efficient. 4 for 20 passing, 148 yards, 5 touchdowns. It seems like he did that LASIK surgery on his eyes, and his eyes are working. I mean, I'm so happy for Jameis Winston right now. 5 touchdowns. Kamara had a good game. 20 carries for 83 yards. He was also able – he didn't catch the ball. He had 3 receptions for 80 yards. I mean, for 8 yards. But he did have a receiving touchdown, which is good. So Chris Hogan, welcome back to the NFL. He had a touchdown. Juwan Johnson, another sleeper tight end, had 2 touchdowns. Deontay Harris. So just a very solid game on the offensive side. But on the defensive side, they were able to dominate Aaron Rodgers. I mean, Marcus Davenport had a sack. They had 2 sacks as a team. They put a lot of pressure on these guys, and they were able to defend. Literally, after the game was over, Marshawn Lattimore was able to get his contract. I guess what they wanted to see was to see if he can shut down Devontae Adams, and he was able to do that. But that's not the reason why Marshawn Lattimore got paid. That's just what I like to think in my head. You know, it just makes sense. Moving on to the Denver Broncos versus the New York Giants. I'm so glad the Giants lost, being a Washington fan. Teddy Bridgewater was solid, 264 yards, 2 touchdowns. Melvin Gordon had that long 70-yard touchdown. That was crazy. He had 11 carries for 101 yards and 1 touchdown. Jerry Jeudy was lost for a large part of the season. Prayers up. That means now they're dependent on Noah Fant, KJ Hamler, Melvin Gordon, pretty much everybody who's on the team, including Cortland Sutton, who really didn't even do anything Sunday. So all these guys are going to be counted upon to step up. I think that Teddy Bridgewater is going to have this team in a position to win some games. He's managing the ball. He's not turning it over. He looks better than he does when he was with the Panthers. It's just one game. It's overreaction Sunday, like I told you guys. You guys are going to hear me say some things. It's overreaction. Daniel Jones, he just continues to fumble. I think he had a costly fumble that put the game away. Saquon is just not back yet. He couldn't really get going. You know what I'm saying? Daniel Jones had a decent game passing the ball. Sterling Shepard was amazing. 7 receptions for 113 yards and a touchdown. That Giants defense is good, but it was just, you know what? The Broncos did a little bit more. And the Broncos, they're pretty good at defending the pass. That's where the bulk of their talent is. They can rush after the quarterback and they can defend the pass. Running the ball is probably where you're going to get some success versus the Broncos. But we'll see what that defense looks like come week 2. You know what I'm saying? Maybe the Giants are just that bad. And the Giants are matching up against my Washington football team come Thursday. So let's see what happens there. The Sunday night game was a little boring. I'm not even going to lie. But the only thing that was excited about it was Matthew Stafford on a new team. Matthew Stafford was just awesome. 121 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. He was untouched. He had so much time. Darrell Henderson had a good game, 16 carries for 70 yards and a touchdown. Very efficient. Also added a reception for 17 yards in the passing game. Cooper Kupp, 7 receptions, 108 yards. Van Jefferson, welcome to the NFL. 2 receptions, 80 yards, and a touchdown. Robert Woods also scored. So the Rams have 3 really good wide receivers. And then you can sprinkle in just a little bit of Tyler Higbee and just a little bit of Deshaun Jackson to complete that receiving corps. Defensively, Aaron Donald is just a monster. He had so many times when he could have wrapped up and he kind of slipped a little bit. You know what I'm saying? He had a sack. Justin Hollins had 2 sacks. They were able to get after Andy Dalton. We saw Justin Fields come in and, get a scoring play similar to Trey Lance, but Justin Fields was able to run it in. David Montgomery, the biggest takeaway was that David Montgomery had 16 carries for 108 yards and 1 touchdown. That's the biggest takeaway. And we'll see if the Bears can improve. Maybe Justin Fields comes out a lot sooner. Maybe week 3, week 4, you give him the reins and say, hey, we trust you, go out there. So they're taking that approach where Justin Fields is looking and playing maybe 3 plays, 4 plays a game. I see that changing rather sooner than later. The Bears defense wasn't bad. It was just that the offense really couldn't help them. Now, the most exciting game of the day. Before I get to that, let me just go ahead and talk about my team. I did skip my team. The Washington football team played the Chargers. It was a close game. It was a game that the football team should have won. A costly turnover by Antonio Gibson gave the ball to Justin Herbert at the 5, short field. They scored that touchdown, and it pretty much clinched the game. I really don't want to get too much into that game because it's going to make me pissed off, so I don't want to be pissed off. So it's kind of why I skipped that game, but I still got to talk about the football team and the Chargers for the football team fans and Charger fans out there. But getting into the most exciting game of this entire weekend was last night, the Baltimore Ravens versus the Las Vegas Raiders. First of all, John Gruden is a terrible coach. I just want to go ahead and put that out there. They had so many chances to win this game. They lost it. They won it. They lost it. They won it. You can't make this up. Just go back and watch this game when it comes back on the replay. This is an instant classic. It was one of the most exciting games I've ever seen in my entire life. Lamar Jackson had a good game to start, 235 yards, a touchdown. He also ran 12 times for 86 yards, so real solid. Tyson Williams came in, 9 carries, 65 yards and a touch. Latavius Murray, 10 carries, 28 yards and a touch. Sammy Watkins really surprised me, man. 4 catches, 96 yards. Marquise Brown, 69 yards, a touchdown. So, look, Lamar had help in terms of pass catchers. It was just the defense and just a few turnovers by Lamar Jackson. He did fumble 2 times, 2 costly turnovers that pretty much changed the game around. Derek Carr had one of his better games of his life. He had 435 yards passing. He had 2 touchdowns and an interception. Josh Jacobs did score twice. They really couldn't get much on the ground. The Ravens are a really good run defensive team. But Darren Waller had 19 targets. He caught 10 of them for 105 yards and a touchdown. If you play PPR, if you have Darren Waller, that was amazing. Bryan Edwards, he's starting to become something. He's probably that number 1 receiver for the Raiders right now. He had 4 receptions for 81 yards. He should have had that score, but he fell short. Hunter Renfrow, also 6 receptions for 70 yards. Kenyon Drake is being used as a 3rd down back, which is cool. But, man, the game was just awesome. The game was magnificent, man. Patrick Queen had a sack. Parnell McPhee had a sack. The game was exciting. And look out for Max Crosby. Max Crosby was all over the field. Maybe the Ravens missed out on giving away all of their offensive linemen to get better defensively, but now their offensive lineman is terrible. It's terrible. They can't run as well. Obviously, they're missing a lot of their, running backs. They lost 3 running backs this season. J.K. Dobbins, Justice Hill, Gus Edwards. So you're down to your 4th and your 5th string. You're signing people off the street. So they're doing well in terms of that. But I think the Ravens' offensive line took a major hit backwards. So we'll see how that continues to progress. The football team played The Giants come Thursday, so I might do a preview show for the Washington fans and then do a post-game show as well. So, guys, this is the Talking Sports with Manny YouTube channel. Please like, please subscribe, please share. This is the Talking Sports with Manny podcast. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify or wherever that you're listening to, please subscribe, please rate, and I'll be back with more episodes. Just wanted to kick this thing off with week 1 overreactions. People are loving Jameis Winston. People are loving this guy. People are down on Aaron Rodgers. It's so much overreaction. Take a deep breath. Football is back. Enjoy yourselves. Enjoy your families, and you guys be safe. I will catch you guys on the next episode.